We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash that like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. Welcome into the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to be a PATC legend with your comments in the PATC chat room or with your phone calls later in the show. 763-260-1333. Call us about anything in college football. We're going to open up the phone lines in about an hour from now. We have a stacked, packed show this afternoon. I'm a little worried that the connections, I'm having a little bit of a bad connections today. Is everything looking good in your end in the PATC chat room? Are we good? Give me a thumbs up. Give me a yes if we're good. I'm having a little bit of troubles here in the studio. Haven't had those issues in a while, but having a little bit, yes, we're good. I'm glad. We haven't had any issues for a while here in the Gopher by the Grace of God studios, but we're having them this morning. Boy, do we have a stacked show. And honestly, we could put two shows back to back today. First of all, we're going to talk about John Wilner's article. Good news for Washington State and Oregon State. Some really good news. And I believe this is just one of those things where it helps Washington State's and Oregon State's leverage to get a deal done that favors them pretty good. Pretty good. Now, of course, we talked about it earlier on previous live shows. The timing, the calendar, that favors the other schools in the Pac-12 or schools that used to be in the Pac-12 because Washington State and Oregon State, they want to get something done. So that's always the leverage that a Washington, an Oregon, a USC, UCLA, and the other schools have over Washington State and Oregon State. But something popped. Great reporting by John Wilner of the Mercury News. We're going to be going over that article. That's the first thing we're going to do. Very good news. George Kliavkoff, under oath, so to speak, basically said that USC and UCLA were no longer part of the Pac-12 CEO group. They were no longer voting members. It's he who said that in the Comcast dispute. He wrote his name on that. So what does that mean? The other schools, they're no longer voting members either. Correct? Correct? We're going to be going through that article. Then after that, man, oh man, oh man, oh man. Boy, we have an update. Look, no, I did not anticipate. We have updates, and I did not anticipate hitting this in the next live show, but we got to hit it again. Putting up the image of the Holy Smokes Theater, done by a member of the PATC community, McCardo. I'm going to highlight him later today or in the next live show because I asked if I could steal this artwork from him. He gave me permission, and we're going to be using this quite often. We do not anticipate anything official being announced until the first quarter of 2024. We've been saying that over and over again. We've been saying that since December 26, 2022, when the Florida State Money Perch gave us that information. But the battlefield, in whatever happens, is being shaped right now. There's no doubt about that. And in regards to the guy in the mask who brought up a pair of skates and set them next to Tony Petitti, as they're sitting in the sixth row, Tony Petitti sitting with NBC, that is actually something that I'm going to be able to speak about more in depth on the next live show. Because there was an article just dropped this morning that gave hints and not really direct hints and clues, but read between the lines, my friends. And I think I might have to hit that just for a moment. I have too much on my plate, too much on this show to get really into that today. But let me preface it. Let me just give you an overall Tony Petitti, the Big Ten offices. Now, this is not what I'm going to talk about. This is not my significant update. Although this is a significant update. We have a lot of significant updates going on in the Holy Smokes Theater, but people are they're already starting to write about it. And it's going to be more direct in the weeks and months ahead. But the Tony Petitti Big Ten office is the son of the Delaney Big Ten office. This is not Kevin Warren. This Tony Petitti is leaning on Delaney. And if you know what Delaney, the former 25-year Big Ten commissioner, if you know what he was trying to do, if you have insight into that, if you knew who Delaney was warm-upping to for years, then you know what Tony Petitti is going to try to accomplish. Some of those hints were given in the last live show. But we'll get into that on our next live show. We'll hit that article that was dropped this morning just a little bit because we got a whole lot of other things to go to. The significant update in the Holy Smokes Theater doesn't directly correlate to Tony Petitti or the Skates or Notre Dame or NBC. There's a new person that has entered the Holy Smokes Theater for the very first time. And he's come strutting into the theater. He's going to be taking a seat. The question is, well, who is he? But even as important is where is he sitting? The battlefields are being drawn. The landscape is being shaped right now, here in October. What the final outcome is, I cannot tell you here. I can give you a peek around the corner. I can't give you a crystal ball. But as you know, in our Holy Smokes Theater, when it came to Colorado and the other schools, when it came to Oregon and Washington, sitting next to Fox Sports with Petitti down the row, you saw how that played out. I'm telling you, the little peaks, the Holy Smokes Theater, you want to keep an eye on it as we go through the days and weeks and months ahead. This is going to be a long story. Things are going to change, but there is smoke inside the theater on how the battlefield is being shaped. Giving a little bit of hints here, a little bit of hints there, and I think I'm going to be able to push the envelope just a little bit further on those hockey skates that were dropped next to Tony Petitti by a masked man. I think I'm going to be able to get in more into that. I think we're already starting to see some people alluding to it, reporters, and I think we're going to see that in the next couple weeks ahead. And then we got to get into our predictions against the spread. Now, Greg the Cooler, myself, I'm 20, 24, and 2. The PATC community is 18, 26, and 2. I had someone tell me in a direct message, says, Greg, you should alter back and forth on who gets to pick first. Because Greg the Cooler, myself, I've been picking first every single week, and then you guys make the prediction with your votes when I set up the polls. And that's what we're going to do today. And the guy made a good look. He said, look, we are influenced. The PATC is influenced by your bad picks, Greg. That's why we're doing so bad. And I think you make a good point. So, we're going to alternate weekly who gets the pick first. And in week 7, the PATC is going to make their picks against the spread first. And then I'm going to make my pick. So, the PATC community should start doing better because you're not influenced so much by my horrendous picks. So, let's get into the first story. I want to thank everybody first for coming on in this lunchtime PATC lunchtime. Skoducky is in the house. Jose's in the house. AMAC is in the house. D5 Terps. R. Webb. John Mentzer's in the house. the Bearcat. Steve the Bearcat is in the house. Bow down to Washington. Ted Evans is in the house. Randy Taylor, Tater Tots, Patrick the Baylor Bears in the house. Stephen McNeely, Jay Perlmutter, Mr. UCLA Bruin is in the house. Thanks for coming on in. There's so many people in here early. Coos Corner, live show on a West Virginia game day. I think I will. West Virginia. Is that one of the games we're going to pick today against the spread? Yes, it is. West Virginia and Houston. Jesse Wilson's in the house. Greg, you're killing me. Buckshot Kid is in the house. Jim Reese, Lewis Pop, Cadillac Manis just threw another pick. Greg the Cooler might just become Greg the Heater. I doubt it. I highly doubt it. Richard L. excited for this play. Jay Go Blue, holy smokes. Let hear it, Greg. Thanks for everybody coming on in. Even the evil Badger himself. The evil Badger himself, Jeff Olson, is in the house. Now, let's get to the John Wilner article. And then we're going to get to the ACC drama that's playing inside the Holy Smokes Theater. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. If you're new to the channel, please understand the Holy Smokes Theater, why we don't take ourselves too seriously. We don't take ourselves seriously at all. We do take what we talk about seriously. The Holy Smokes Theater is a way for me to give you a peek around the corner in college football behind the scenes in a way that I'm able to give you some indication of where things are flowing, where I don't step on my sources' feet, toes, and I don't get in trouble. That I'm able to harvest the field over and over and over again. And the track record of the Holy Smokes Theater, if you don't mind me saying, it's pretty good. So keep an eye on it. It's a way we can push our information out, and hopefully in an entertaining manner. Okay, so let's get to the Wilden article. Holy smokes. Look, I'm going to have a very strong held opinion here. It's okay if you disagree with me in the chat. In your phone calls later in the show, it's go ahead. Lace me. Tell me I've got it all wrong. But I got a very strong held opinion that this is another, a batch of good news for Washington State and Oregon State as they fight for the best outcome they can possibly get out of this, I don't know what you would even call it. Out of these lawsuits, out of this. What a story. Anyways, Pac-12 legal fight. In a sworn statement in the Comcast case, Kliavkoff admitted USC and UCLA had been removed from the Pac-12 board. The revelation is potentially significant in the lawsuit brought by Washington State and Oregon State, and I do think it's significant. I don't think it's the whole ball of wax. I don't think it's a slam shut case, right? I don't think it's something that, because of this, we have nothing else to talk about within this case. In a court filing, but it is significant. In a court filing last month, in the fight for the control of the Pac-12, Commissioner George Kliavkoff indicated he had no position on the composition of the conference's governing body. Now, in a court filing last month, Kliavkoff indicated he had no position on the composition of the conference governing body. Remember that. Just last month in a court filing, George Kliavkoff said that. Whether the board seats should be limited to the two remaining schools, Washington State and Oregon State, or to the available 10 outgoing members as well, was an issue for the university to settle. Kliavkoff stated in his court declaration a month ago But that's not what George Kliavkoff said this summer in a different legal entanglement. Weeks before the Pac-12 collapse, Kliavkoff issued a sworn statement. A sworn statement to the San Francisco Superior Court in which he stated that UCLA and USC had, in fact, already relinquished their board positions after announcing they would be joining the Big Ten. Relinquishing their board positions. Relinquishing their board positions means relinquishing their voting status. It's all there in the Pac-12 bylaws. So George Kliavkoff in the Comcast case, we'll get back to the article, basically said in a sworn statement, USC, UCLA are no longer voting members. George Kliavkoff said that in the summer. And now, just recently, a month ago, he says, I've got no position on the composition of the Pac-12 CEO group, which is the voting members. So George Kliavkoff says one thing under a sworn statement in the summer, says something different just a month ago. Thank you, Dan Irwin, for your super chat. I appreciate your generosity. Thank you so very much for coming on in to the PATC chat room. Thank you so very much. Very much appreciated. Helps us keep the lights on. In the first section of his declaration to the court, which was filed July 12th, Kliavkoff states his job title and responsibilities. Again, a declaration to the court, sworn testimony. San Francisco Supreme Court. I'm the commissioner for the defendant Pac-12 Conference and have held this position since July 1st, 2024. I report to the Pac-12 Conference Board of Directors, comprised of the chancellor or president of each member institution. The second sentence is accompanied by the following annotation. The University of California, Los Angeles, and the University of Southern California are no longer among the member institutions represented on the board of directors. There it is. George Kliavkoff. July. They're not voting members. So why would Oregon and Washington be voting members? Why would any of the schools leaving, Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah be voting members? Voting members and what to decide what to do with the Pac-12 assets. The declaration is 9 pages long and concludes, I declare under penalty of perjury pursuant to the laws of the United States of America and the state of California, the foregoing is true and correct, and it is signed by himself, George Kliavkoff. A source called the development potentially significant in the lawsuit brought by Washington State and Oregon State against the conference over control of the governing board. Well, yeah. Yeah. Yes. Of course. There it is, George Kliavkoff, under sworn testimony. Look, if you're not a member of the board of directors in the Pac-12, you are no longer an institution that can vote on Pac-12 matters. According to the bylaws. Now, if someone wants to say that something supersedes the bylaws, then go ahead. That is why we're saying at Peek Around the Corner, this is not everything. It doesn't mean it's a slam dunk case for Washington State and Oregon State. But baby, it gives them even more leverage. Of course it does. Especially in mediation. Especially if you're trying to settle outside the courts before it gets to the courts. Thank you so much, Cleveland Rock. Still on vacation. Enjoy watching the Big 12 Mafia, Monty, Coos Corner. All your different perspectives and takes are really interesting. Thanks. Very sorry about the loss of your father. Hope things are better. Thank you so much for your super chat, Cleveland Rocks. Thank you for your generosity. I appreciate it. Can't tell you how much I appreciate it. And thanks you for your thoughts about my father. Doing great. In fact, this is my father's hat. He wore it every single day. I had pictures of him wearing it. He wore it on his last few days. College football's peek around the corner. And I got it with me here in the studio. So it's a remembrance of him. Every single day we do the show. Thank you so much, Cleveland Rocks. I appreciate it. Okay, now back to the article. We have so much to get through today. It's truly unbelievable. I could do 2 shows. It shows Kliavkoff under penalty of perjury, acknowledging the announced departures to other conferences triggers removal from the Pac-12's board. Exactly the point Washington State and Oregon State are arguing in their lawsuit. The 2 schools left behind in the realignment game contend the 10 outbound members gave what conference bylaws call notice of withdrawal upon announcing their moves to new leagues. I absolutely agree. As a result, the Cougars and Beavers, and this is why the title of this show, even though we got so many other things to talk about, the title of this live show is Very Good Day for the Cougars and the Beavers. No question about it. Today is a very good day for those 2 institutions, the athletic departments. As a result, the Cougars and the Beavers believe they are the only remaining members of the board. The lawsuit filed September 11th against the Pac-12 attempts to gain judicial clarity on the matter. The stakes are high. If Washington State and Oregon State control the board, they control the Pac-12 assets, including NCAA tournament revenue worth tens of millions of dollars over time. The money could be used to fund their athletic departments or rebuild the conference with the Mountain West teams after the 10 universities depart next summer. The money could be used, all these assets, not just the Pac-12, not just the Pac-12 network, but the NCAA tourney credits that are flowing in and other things. The money could be used to fund their athletic departments, which it will be, no question about it, or rebuild. I don't think it's an or. I think it's an and. Refund their athletic departments and rebuild the conference with Mountain West teams after the 10 universities depart next summer. I don't think it's an or. I think it's an and. Both. A temporary restraining order issued September 11th by Whitney County, Washington Judge Gary Libby prevents the Pac-12 board from meeting until the makeup of the governing body can be determined. Libby scheduled a hearing on the matter for November 14th. And you better believe that Washington State, Oregon State are going to use the sworn testimony by George Kliavkoff, the commissioner himself, declaring that USC UCLA were no longer members of the board of the Pac-12, the directors board, ones who actually vote. Additionally, the 2 sides, the Pac-2 and the Pac-10, agreed to enter mediation and began talks earlier this month. Kliavkoff's sworn statement in the Comcast case came in the middle of July, 2 weeks before Colorado announced its departure for the Big 12, and 3 weeks before the 5 additional schools agreed to leave. So Kliavkoff's sworn statement that USC, UCLA were no longer part of the board, voting members of the conference, he gave that sworn statement 2 weeks before Colorado left and 3 weeks before Oregon, Washington, Arizona State, Colorado already left, and Utah left. So logically, none of those schools will no longer be voting members. At that point, USC President Carol Folt and UCLA Chancellor Gene Block had long since been removed from the board of directors. They were long removed from the board of directors. They were not voting on anything in regards to the Pac-12, especially their assets. Long before George Kliavkoff gave that sworn statement, testimony, signed it on July 12th this summer. The Pac-12 took that significant step in the summer of 2022 after the Los Angeles schools accepted the Big Ten invitations. The conference used the same policy with Colorado on July 27th. After Chancellor Phil DiStefano informed Kliavkoff via text message that the Buffaloes would be joining the Big 12. The same thing happened to Colorado. So why would not it happen to Utah? Why wouldn't it happen to Arizona State? Of course it would. Of course it would. The next day, Pac-12 General Counsel sent Colorado's legal officer a letter that included the following. Chancellor DiStefano provided Colorado's written notice of withdrawal to the Pac-12. Commissioner George Kliavkoff on July 27, 2023. Under Section CB 2-3 of the Pac-12's Constitution and bylaws, Chancellors DiStefano and the Colorado's representation on the Pac-12 Board of Directors automatically ceases effective immediately, and Colorado no longer has the right to vote on any matter before the board. On any matter. That was Pac-12's General Counsel saying that. What? Of course. This again. This. I see people in the chat talking about Comcast settlement, whatever. I think you're missing the point here. This is about these schools not having the ability to vote on any matter. The legal counsel, Pac-12's General Counsel, said that to Colorado. So, of course, it goes to everybody who has given withdrawal notice, which is everybody, including California and Stanford. Everybody but Washington State and Oregon State. And then it talks about Oregon State, Washington State. We'll skip through that. Look, there it is. Now, this is a big deal for Washington State and Oregon State as they go into as they go into negotiations and mediation. This is a lot of ammo. I don't know how much more ammo Washington State and Oregon State could get. But let's make one thing clear. Time is not on their side. If they could draw this out, if Washington State and Oregon State could draw this out, they could get most or all of what they believe they should get, which is all the assets, what's coming to the Pac-12. Not just the networks, but other revenue streams that are coming in, including the NCAA attorney credits. When you're a member that's given withdrawal, you cannot grab that revenue any longer. And you cannot vote on any of these matters. But time is not on Washington State and Oregon State side. Yes, they can become a 2-member conference according to NCAA regulations, according to NCAA, where those 2 schools could be just with a 2-year grace period. But I don't believe that the college football playoff committee, I don't think they have to recognize that as a conference with an automatic berth, for example. So both sides have some leverage. But Oregon State and Washington State are gaining more leverage by the day. And I believe more than ever, there's going to be a settlement. There should be a settlement. And that Oregon State and Washington State are going to get a whole lot more of that assets coming in than the 10 other schools. Put down your comments. Put down your comments and thoughts in the chat room. Give me a call later on the show. Tell me how wrong I am. But Washington State, Oregon State, it's a very, very good day. Now, I got to say, there's a whole group of Oregon State, mainly Oregon State, not too much Washington State, Oregon State fans who gave me a lot of grief over the last year, saying that Peek Around the Corner was part. Now, I'm not talking all Beaver fans here, but there was a segment on Twitter, message board, but on Twitter saying Peek Around the Corner got it all wrong. We were talking about the Pac-12 dissolving. We gave the Pac-12, we gave the Big 12 a better shot at poaching the Pac-12 than the Pac-12 keeping all the schools together all the way back in the February 24th. And I got a lot of grief from a lot of Oregon State Beaver fans, and that's okay. Look, I understand. You're in a tough position. Tough position. You did not want to recognize what was going on. And I don't blame you a bit. Do not blame you a bit. So I don't hold any hard feelings. When you do what I do here and Peek Around the Corner, people get angry with me from all different angles, conferences, schools, including Golden Gopher fans. So I understand, because we just try to give you the straight shoot. I gave you the straight shoot, Oregon State Beaver fans and Washington State Cougar fans, when it came to all what was going on in the Pac-12. We were the ones here at Peek Around the Corner that were honest. It was us. It was us. And I'm being as honest as I possibly can right now. Today is a very good day for the Oregon State Beavers and the Washington State Cougars. Now, let's get on to the next well, here we go. Here we go. I had to take a drink of water. Holy smokes, theater. If you missed our last live show, you can go back into to the Peek Around the Corner YouTube channel. You can find that. That was on October, what day was that? October 9th. October 9th. And we said this was a date that people were going to remember, that we're going to come back to. There's a lot of dates on this Peek Around the Corner show that kind of stand out, that we said we were going to come back to. October 30th, 2022, when Brett Yormark struck that media deal. We said it was a grand slam. We said that now the Pac-12 is going to have a hard time with exposure. We said that Brett Yormark hit a grand slam when pretty much almost everybody else was saying that Brett Yormark left money on the table and it was horrible that he struck a deal so early. October 30th, December 26, 2022, the Florida State money perch. February 24, 2023, when we said now the odds favor the Big 12 from poaching the Pac-12, and we never went off that beam, never walked off it. There's a lot of different dates, Well, October 9th is one of those days that we're going to remember, because we said a masked man, if you look at the picture on your phone or on your tablet or on your TV, you see that mask? You see that masked man? He brought in a pair of skates, dropped them at the feet of Tony Petitti. And he's saying, placing these skates right here. Now, let's go over what the Holy Smokes Theater looks like before I report to you all a significant entry by a very powerful man in college football. For the first time ever, somebody's just entered in the Holy Smokes Theater. Going back to what it looks like now, Florida State is at the center of the stage, just like Colorado, just like we said Colorado was for months and months and months, even before those articles came out and said that Colorado was at the center of the stage. In fact, they took the lingo center of the stage. Florida State is at the center of the stage, the only one up there at this time. Clemson is at the edge of the stage. They're standing there. They're standing on the stage, but not on the stage. North Carolina is in the front row. Sitting in the front row right in front of the stage. Notre Dame Fighting Irish is in the 5th row. In the 6th row is Tony Petitti sitting next to NBC. And sitting on the left side of him, there's a pair of skates, a pair of hockey skates. We talked about that in the last live show. I believe in our next live show, we're going to be able to push the envelope. I think we're going to be able to do it. I did not think it would come this soon, but I believe, I got a feeling that that is going to happen on the next live show. Or something might pop, some reporter might write about it before we can get to it, but that's okay. That's okay. I got no problems with that. Now, in the 15th row is where all the rest of the Magnificent Seven schools sit, right? All of them. North Carolina State, Virginia Tech, Virginia, Miami of Florida. That's where they are sitting in the 15th row. We also have Peter Collins sitting up above. If you take a look at that picture, he's in the, he's not in the picture here in the artwork, but Peter Collins, as we've said from the very beginning when we open up this Act 1, we are in Act 3 now. Peter Collins, the Board of Trustees of Florida State, is sitting in a box. Sitting in a box up there on the left side of the stage. He's sitting up high looking down. Peter Collins. He was the guy who came in with the mask on, but then when he made all these public comments, then we decided, well, we'll just have him take the mask off because it was Peter Collins the whole time. But when he made those public statements at the Florida State Board of Trustees, we decided, okay, now everybody knows that he's very aggressive in this, so we have him take the mask off. So there's only one person with the mask on, and that is the guy who dropped off the skates next to Tony Petitti. Now, here is the significant change. The significant change in the Holy Smokes Theater. The one and the only. The most powerful man right now in college football, Greg Sankey, has entered into the theater. Greg Sankey has entered into the theater for the very first time. Yes, what does that mean? It means now, remember, when we had Tony Petitti enter into the Big 12 drama, into the Holy Smokes Theater, and we had him sit down at a row, the first row, at the end of the row that Oregon and Washington were sitting, when Fox Sports was sitting in between Oregon and Washington. Do you remember that, PATC community? Do you remember that? We told you that weeks and weeks, months before Oregon and Washington joined the Big Ten. We kept saying it. 5 months from now or 5 years from now, Oregon and Washington will be members of the Big Ten because of Fox Sports. We gave you that visual in the PATC Holy Smokes Theater before everybody knew about it. It was important that Tony Petitti went in to that theater. It was a change. He was looking. Big Ten was starting to take the potential of Oregon and Washington State entering their conference. Now they were taking the potential of that happening even more serious because the dominoes were starting to fall in their favor. Greg Sankey has entered into the PATC Holy Smokes Theater because now it is time. Now it is time for the SEC to start, pushing for the battlefield to be shaped in their direction. It's happening now in October. We're not just, ladies and gentlemen, we're not just saying this. As you go look at the history of the Holy Smokes Theater, Greg Sankey, for the very first time, is taking proactive measure. And once again, people know this. People know it. And this is going to be part of what people are reporting on. Now, even a more important question. Is where is Greg Sankey going to sit in the theater? Where is he sitting? Because that is the great indication of what he's thinking. Just like Tony Petitti sitting at the end of the row with Oregon and Washington, when they were in the center of the row with Fox Sports sitting in between those two, with Tony Petitti sitting next to NBC, and those pair of skates was dropped next to Tony Petitti. Where's Greg Sankey going to sit? Well, he's walking down the middle of the row, the middle aisle of the theater. He gets to the front of the theater. He takes a sharp left. He goes to the edge of the theater, walks up behind some back stairs, walking up into a box in a balcony where the VIPs sit, and he's got himself sitting in his own box, separate from where Peter Collins is sitting, but a box next to where Peter Collins is sitting. That's where Greg Sankey has taken his place in the Holy Smokes Theater for the very first time. Tony Petitti's in the theater. Greg Sankey's in the theater. And I'm going to say this. Right now, Fox Sports is not in the theater. Right now, ESPN is not in the theater. Could that change? Could that change soon? It could. And again, while we do not take ourselves seriously here at Peek Around the Corner, we do take what we say very seriously. We're not just talking about the skates being set next to Tony Petitti because there's no smoke there. There's smoke and fire there. We're not just talking about Greg Sankey entering the Holy Smokes Theater just to have a good time, because he is now in the theater. He is now going to try to shape the landscape of the next realignment. He can say what he says in public. He can be as passive-aggressive as he wants. But they are getting aggressive behind the scenes. And he's sitting in a box in the balcony, his own box, separate from Peter Collins, the Board of Trustees for Florida State, but next to the box that Florida State Board of Trustees, the chairman of the board. Those boxes are separate, but right next to each other. I want to hit upon real quick here. Just real quick. If I can find it. Give me a moment, everybody. Give me a moment. Ba, 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 ba. I would, I'm just going to show this real quick here. If I was you, I would go read the Sporticle, the Business of Sports article on Tony Petitti, Kevin Warren, Jim Delaney. I would read that article that just came out today. They do not directly hint at what I'm talking about in the Holy Smokes Theater. But there is something that has become quite apparent what's going on inside the Big Ten office. We're going to get more into that in the next live show. We're not doing that today. We got too much to talk about when it comes to Sankey entering the theater for the very first time. So go ahead, take a look at Sportico, give that a read before our next live show. Okay. No, I think I got too much to do, Timmy. I'll go give it a read. And it doesn't connect the dots, so to speak, in regards to the theater anyways. But people are getting there. People are getting there. And that article goes a long ways. Okay. Now, we are going to get to your predictions and my predictions on the week ahead, week 7. Okay? Then we're going to get to your phone calls. If you want, there's so many comments in the chat board. I appreciate it. If you want me to get to at one of your comments as quick as possible, a donation will get it done. I will try to hit some of your comments before we get to the phone calls. Okay. Now, here we go. First game, Syracuse and Florida State. PATC community, you're going to be voting on these 8 games. Those will be your selections. I will take the same 8 games and make my predictions. We'll get the predictions in the books, and then we'll get to your phone calls regarding to these games and what we just talked about in our monologue. One of the announcements I want to make is Saturday, 3:30 Eastern Time, 2:30 Central Time, 12:30 Pacific Time. Peek around the corner. We'll be doing a watch party. Oregon versus Washington. Starting about 15 minutes before the game kicks off. Watch party. PATC, it's official. Washington Huskies versus the Oregon Ducks. Please join us. Put down your comments in real time. Give us some phone calls during the game. You know how it works. We have a lot of fun watching the game together, putting this down, putting your comments down, the emotions, the phone calls. Join us this Saturday. It's official. PATC watch party. We'll be doing the Washington versus Oregon mammoth epic football game. Here we go. Does Florida State. Cover. Minus 17.5 point spread versus the Orange. Does Florida State cover the 17.5 point spread versus the Orange? Start voting right now. Give you about 20 seconds. Five, four, three, two, one. The vote ends. 71% of the vote. 71% of the PATC community takes Florida State. The second pick. Oregon at Washington. Holy smokes. Wow. Okay, here we go. Does Washington cover minus 2.5 point spread versus Oregon? The voting starts now. This is our PATC watch party game for this Saturday. Five, four, three, two, one. 56% says yes. Washington will cover the spread. Washington Huskies in a close vote, says they cover the spread. I got it. Hold on a second. Kenneth Evans is saying a lot of things about Oregon. I only argued that Oregon was not valuable to the Big Ten. I still do not understand their perceived value. That school is the same as Oklahoma State with the bigger donor lottery ticket. You can have opinions are welcome here, all different opinions on how good a football program is and everything. But the important part is that Fox Sports perceived Oregon's value to be much greater than many other schools, to the point where they wanted Oregon to join the Big Ten. They were a brand multiplier. The Oregon Ducks are a brand multiplier. That means whoever they're playing, the viewership goes up. Fox Sports, we reported it week in, week out for a year, no matter what other people were saying. We got a whole bunch of slings and arrows. They're in my back as we speak, talking about Greg's got it all wrong in regards to Oregon joining the Big Ten. We had a guy with all these charts going all over the place, saying that I was lying throughout the country, saying that he went on these shows, he was on these Twitter, saying all these charts show that Big Ten would never accept Oregon. Fox Sports, there's no interest in Oregon. Well, history is going to be very kind to us here at Peek Around the Corner because Oregon was voted by the Big Ten presidents. Perception is reality. Oregon has a big, massive brand. And they are an AAU school, even though they're not a big research school. All no disrespect to the Oklahoma State Cowboys and that institution, but there is a clear difference in what the Big Ten perceives, Fox Sports perceives the value of Oregon and Oklahoma State. I see all these comments going up while I'm doing my show. Sometimes I have to butt it and say, whoa, you can talk about Oregon. What haven't they done on the football field? They haven't won a national championship. But their perception by the people who need to make money, Fox Sports, their perception, yes, Oregon is that valuable. Thank you, Roman Maroney. Just want to help you keep the lights on. I appreciate the super chat. Appreciate your incredible generosity to this channel, Roman. Thank you so very much. Let's get back to the voting. We've gotten 2 games done. We got 6 more to go. So far, peek around, PATC community has taken Florida State to cover. They've taken Washington to cover. And now we're going to get to Texas A&M and Tennessee. Texas A&M and Tennessee. Does Tennessee cover minus 3.5 point spread versus Texas A&M? Whoops. Does Tennessee cover the 3.5 point spread versus Texas A&M? The voting starts now. So far, the PATC community is going with the favorites in these games. The ones that have to give the points. Florida State, Washington. Right now, the voting has the advantage of Tennessee covering the 3.5 point spread. Going to give it 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 60% of the voters in the PATC community takes the Tennessee Volunteers to cover the spread. Here comes the 4th game. Does North Carolina cover minus 3.5 point spread versus Miami, Florida? The voting starts now. Again, the PATC community looks like they're choosing the team that has to give the points, the favorite. No, it's close. Back and forth. I'm going to give this 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bam! We're ending the poll. 51% says North Carolina will cover. 51%. Holy smokes. That was a close vote. And now here we are. Whoa, Nelly. Woo! Does Notre Dame, Fighting and Irish, does Notre Dame cover minus 2.5 point spread versus the USC Trojans? Caleb Williams going for his back-to-back Heisman. The voting starts now. Does Notre Dame cover the minus 2.5 point spread versus USC? A lot of votes. A lot of votes have come in. More votes on this game than any other game. I'm going to give you 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. No. No votes have had it. USC. 58% takes USC to cover. Wow. Timmy Evans says this one is easy. Bank on USC. Take the money line to plus 125 for USC to win it outright. Roman Maroney says ugly weather, ugly game. Notre Dame will cover. Jared Jones says Notre Dame can't beat Big Ten teams. USC is a Big Ten team now. USC's not a Big Ten team now, Mr. Buckeye. But they're close, but not quite yet. Okay, next game. Here we go. Arkansas, the Hogs, the Razorbacks versus the Alabama Crimson Tide. Let's get to it. Does Alabama cover the minus 19.5 point spread versus Arkansas? Interesting game. A lot of points, but does Alabama, do they have it going on now? The vote starts now. The voting starts now. Does Alabama cover the minus 19.5 point spread versus the Razorbacks? Kenneth Evans says Arkansas has a good defense. We're going to look at the voting. Looking at the voting. A lot of votes have already come in. It's a little tight. Alabama minus 19.5. Back and forth. Going to give you 5 more seconds to vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 54% says no. 54% says Arkansas will cover the 19.5 point spread. I'm a little surprised by that. The PATC community surprising me a little bit with these votes. Does Kansas Jayhawks cover the minus 3.5 point spread versus Oklahoma State? The Cowboys getting off to Kansas, winning last week. Kansas Jayhawks, who's going to be their quarterback? It sounds like it's going to be Bean again. I'm not sure. The voting starts now. The PATC community's record against the spread going into week 7 is 18 wins, 26 losses, 2 ties. Greg the Cooler, my record is 20 wins, 24 losses, and 2 ties. Both of us are trying to make a comeback. I'm going to give you 5 more seconds. A lot of votes have come in. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're ending the poll now. Again, the PATC community loves the Jayhawks when it comes to the spread. Kansas minus 3.5 points. They've got it covered. Two more games to go. Two more games to go here. Does Maryland, who played pretty good in the first 2.5 quarters against the Buckeyes, does Maryland cover minus 13.5 point spread versus the Fighting Illini? The voting starts now. The voting starts now. Pretty close with the votes. We got one more after this. Then we're going to go to your phone calls. With everything in college football, you can talk about anything you want. The Holy Smokes Theater, Greg Sankey entering the Holy Smokes Theater for the very first time, sitting up in a box next to Peter Collins. Not the same box, but a box right next to Peter Collins. Why did Greg Sankey choose to sit there? He did not sit in the rows. He sat in the balcony, VIP. The voting's going to end in 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yes, 67% says Maryland. Maryland, 67%. And now for the last game. The last game on the docket. Tonight, Neil Brown, the West Virginia Mountaineers at Houston Cougars. Dana Holgorsen. Dana left West Virginia. Dana left West Virginia to become the new coach of the Houston Cougars. Things haven't gone the way that the Houston Cougar fans would like. Neil Brown trying to save his job. West Virginia is 4-1. What happens tonight? What happens tonight? Holy smokes. We had to do it. That's one of the reasons we had to do an earlier show. Because we had to get this game in. There's other reasons, of course. But let's do it. Let's do it. Holy smokes. What's going on? Does West Virginia Mountaineers cover minus 2.5 point spread versus Houston? Daniel Holgorsen. What's happening? What's happening in this game? The voting starts now. So far, it's a landslide. It's a landslide. I wonder who I'm going to take in this game. Do I go with the landslide, the PATC community, or do I go into a different direction? I'm giving you 5 more seconds to vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That ends the voting on that game. And for all the games in week 7, West Virginia, 88% of the community takes West Virginia minus 2.5. Now, quickly, I'm going to go over the games. Then we got to get to your phone calls. This has been a very long monologue. I apologize for that. I'm going to give you as much opportunity as you want to give us a call or give us comments with the donation. We'll go over all your comments. Okay? Syracuse at Florida State. I gotta agree. I have to agree with the PATC community. I'm taking FSU. I think they're gonna roll. Syracuse has stubbed their toes 2 weeks in a row. I'm gonna make it 3 weeks in a row. The Seminoles win big. Oh boy. Oh boy. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I have the Washington Huskies going to the college football playoffs. Preseason picks, right? I got Washington, Penn State, Georgia, and Florida State. So I'm going to take the Huskies. It's going to be a close game. It's going to be an epic battle. Michael Penix Jr. versus Bo Nix. DeBoer versus Lanning. You can go on and on and on and on. Bucky Irving running the football. We're going to be doing a watch party. Watch party this Saturday. Come join us. It's going to be lots and lots of fun. But I got to take the Washington Huskies. But it's going to be a close one. -2.5. I agree with the spread. Holy cow. But I got to take the Washington Huskies. This game, I'm going different than the PATC community. There is something a little off about the Tennessee Volunteers. I don't know what it is. They're my team in the SEC. That was our sleeper pick last year, and they came through. They finished in the top 10 at the end of the year. They were not in the top 25 AP poll. Tennessee was our sleeper pick last year. Kentucky is our sleeper pick this year, and they were doing great until they got mauled last week by Georgia. We're taking Texas A&M. They're playing. Look, yeah, they lost. They're Jimbo Fisher going to be in a whole lot of trouble. But Texas A&M is playing a little bit better than I thought they were going to, and Tennessee's not quite playing as good as I thought. So we're taking Texas A&M. We are taking the points. We're taking the points. Now, for the fourth, so we differ on that game. Miami of Florida versus North Carolina. We're taking the Tar Heels. Miami of Florida. Are they going to be able to rebound from last week? Not taking the knee, Mario Cristobal, not taking ownership of it right away in this press conference. I say no way. Absolutely no way. I believe the North Carolina Tar Heels are going to roll. I also have the question of Tyler Van Dyke. He has not been a very consistent quarterback. 2 years ago, really good. Last year, not good. This year's been good. Last week, forget about not taking the knee. Last week, Tyler Van Dyke was off. Yeah, I'm sorry. I got to take the Tar Heels. I have to agree with the PATC community, and I'm taking the North Carolina Tar Heels. Now, the PATC community took USC in this game. +2.5. Grinch getting a lot of heat. Defensive coordinator. USC's defense still has not improved. And I don't believe they can be a college football playoff. They're not going this year once again. We got Washington. But Notre Dame, there's something going on with that offense. And we kind of know what it is. They don't have weapons. They have Sam Hartman, but they do not have weapons. They don't have weapons at the wide receiver position. They might have some freshmen that might get there someday, but they don't have it today. They will not have it on Saturday. So I agree once again with the PATC community. USC is going to outscore Notre Dame. Notre Dame's defense is legit. It's good. But I'm taking the USC Trojans. I'm taking them +2.5. This game here, I cannot agree with the PATC community. PATC community, by a very close vote, took the Arkansas Razorbacks. I'm taking Alabama. Yes, they've slipped. Yes, they slide. But they got back on track. They're not going to slide back this week. I got Alabama. Yes, Arkansas, decent defense, decent team overall, but I got Alabama -19 Kansas and Oklahoma State. Well, whatever I do with the Kansas game, I get it wrong. When I go with them, they don't cover the spread. When I go against them, they do cover the spread. So whatever I do this game, I'm going to get it wrong. So, since you all picked Kansas minus 3.5, I'm going to go ahead and pick Kansas minus 3.5 so we both can get it wrong. I'm taking Kansas minus 3.5. Now, Illinois versus Maryland. This is the lock of the century. The lock of the century. Of course, Maryland is going to cover this. Minus 13.5 is showing the Terrapins no respect. Illinois is not good this year. They're not good this year. They're at the same level, the same tier as my beloved Minnesota Golden Gophers. Maryland Terrapins are more than 2 touchdowns better than fighting in Illinois, especially at home. Give me a break. This is a lock. This is a lock. However, so I'm taking Maryland. However, this game, ladies and gentlemen, is not a lock. Ladies and gentlemen, 88% of the PATC community took the West Virginia Mountaineers. 88%. We've never had a vote. We've never had a landslide in those epic proportions. 88% of the PATC community took the West Virginia Mountaineers. 88% of you took the West Virginia Mountaineers minus 2.5 points. And 88% of you are wrong. Greg the Cooler is taking the Houston Cougars to cover the spread at home Thursday night, plus 2.5 points. The Houston Cougars, West Virginia, has been playing for Neil Brown. They've been playing for him. They've been playing better than I ever thought. But I believe the Houston Cougars are going to be playing for Daniel Holgerson tonight. I believe West Virginia is going to be walking into a buzzsaw. I'm going against 88% of the community. I'm taking the Houston Cougars plus 2.5. How do you like them apples? How do you like them apples? Wow. I've got Houston. So there we have it. We've made the picks. You can tell me how wrong I am in the comment section or with the phone calls. We're going to open up the phone lines right now. The lines are open right now. Give us a call if you want. It's 763-260-1333. We've gone through the John Wildner article of the Mercury News. Oregon State, Washington State. George Kliavkoff signed a sworn affidavit. Put his name to it, saying that USC and UCLA in July this summer were no longer part of the board of directors, no longer part of the CEO group, no longer voting members of the Pac-12 conference. So therefore, none of the schools that have left should be voting members of the Pac-12 conference. The general counsel of the Pac-12 wrote it in writing to the Colorado's chancellor of DiStefano that you, Colorado, are no longer a voting member on any matters in the Pac-12 conference. This is good news for Oregon State and Washington State. This is great news for them as they are in mediation right now with the other 10 schools trying to get a settlement. I think this gives Oregon State and Washington State incredible leverage. And then we go to the Holy Smokes Theater. Greg Sankey has walked into the theater, walked up the stairs. He's in a VIP box up in the balcony, in a VIP box right next to the VIP box that Peter Collins is sitting in with the Florida State Seminoles. As the days and weeks go on, we're going to be able to give you more and more details and information on why the Holy Smokes Theater is set up the way it is, why people are sitting where they're sitting, why the skates were dropped off at Tony Petitti, and the changes inside the Big Ten offices, which in today's article from the Sporticle, give it a chance, kind of explains some of it. It doesn't quite connect the dots the way that we're going to at PATC, but I think a lot of people are going to be able to read between the lines and what is going on in the Big Ten, in what is their main goals, main objectives, main targets in the next wave of realignment. Jim Delaney doing consulting work for the ACC is quite interesting in that article. I don't know. Yes. And we knew about that a while ago. We talked about it. That was established way back when the News and Observer, a newspaper in North Carolina, did a FOIA request and talked about the communications between Jim Delaney and Bubba Cunningham, the athletic director, on June 30th of 2022, when it was announced that USC and UCLA were joining the Big Ten. On that day, there was communications between Jim Delaney and Bubba Cunningham. Between Jim Delaney and Bubba Cunningham, and communications between Bubba Cunningham and Mike Gusowich, the chancellor of North Carolina. And in that reporting, or reporting soon after, it was pointed out that Jim Delaney was doing some work with the ACC in some capacity. I think he's been consulting a whole lot of people. I think he consulted, I better not say it, because I don't really have that nailed down. But I think he's been doing other consulting work along with the Big Ten, of course. Marketech says, Vegas is not in the charity. Watch Houston win. I'm surprised that people aren't hammering me on taking Houston. 88% of you took West Virginia. Jared Jones, Sankey Schmanky, Florida State is coming to the Big Ten. Marketech, can't wait to see the Bruins in Happy Valley next year and maybe pick up a runs on the way to Memorial Stadium in Lincoln. Phone lines are open, 763-260-1133. If anyone wants to give us a call, talk about the games that are going to be happening here in Week 7, talk about the John Wilner article, or what we talked about here at Holy Smokes Theater. Kenneth Evans says Florida State, Washington, Tennessee, Miami, Notre Dame, Arkansas, Kansas, Maryland, West Virginia should be the picks. Nathan Barnhart, Petitti, bringing back what Delaney was trying to achieve when he was in office. Notre Dame and North Carolina. Could be. We'll be talking about, not on this live show, but the next live show, we're going to be able to push the envelope just a little bit more. There is a reason why we gave you guys the update of our last live show and how we did it. And it's sort of connected to the Sporticle article. I think more and more people are going to start alluding to it. either indirectly or directly. And peek around the corner, college football is peek around the corner. We're giving you the peek before anyone else does. We're giving you the peek before the articles start generating. We can't go too far. We can't go too over the tip of our skis because I don't want to step on anybody's toes. There are people out there who know what I know. People who are much bigger seats, much big. They're able to report it to you in a way that I can't. They have way bigger distribution than I have. And so I'm able to give you a peek. But so stick with us here at Peek Around the Corner. Kenneth Evans. Delaney has fingers in a lot of pies. It seems he still has a lot of influence in the Big Ten office while Warren was there too. He had less influence with Warren. He's got more influence now. Tim Bales. Thanks, Greg. I was a little worried about tonight. That's until you picked Houston to win. Now I know. My Mountaineers are alive. I'm glad you feel that way, Tim, and I don't blame you a bit. Corey, when do you think the next live show will be? Got to keep your head on a swivel, Corey. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you do that notification bell. It pops up when we're back on live. It could be tonight even. I'm expecting we'll probably be live tomorrow. And I very well could get into that. In fact, I think I'm going to. I think I'm going to be able to push the envelope just a little bit more. A big Friday show. But it could be tonight. I mean, if it all depends on look, I have no strings attached, but it all depends on who's reporting what. Let's just put it that way. I cannot get too far ahead of the story. I will say, though, and I said this at the beginning of the show, with Greg Sankey entering the theater, the shape of the battlefield on what happens between SEC, Big Ten, ESPN, and Fox, and everyone connected to it is people are starting to press in trying to shape that battlefield to their advantage. This wasn't going on before. It's happening now. And I think, and a whole lot of other people think, that's a strong indication that nobody's going to be caught surprised when something happens in the first quarter of 2024, when some schools in the ACC make it public that their intentions is to negotiate, settle with the ACC, and leave the ACC. The battlefield is taking shape right now. It doesn't mean that we believe that everything is solved. No, it isn't. I know other people have said that. I know JD, our great caller from Florida State, believes that. We don't believe that. We don't think anything is set in stone, how this is going to progress. The battlefield is being shaped. It's very interesting times. Very interesting. There are strong indications that certain people are targeting certain institutions first and foremost. Cleveland Rock says money will dictate where each ACC team ends up, period. Nathan says the article says Delaney and Warren weren't really communicating that much. Delaney and Petiti are tied at the hip. And he talks about the game, Oregon and Washington. The problem I see with Oregon and Washington is depth. Oregon 3 deep at every position on both offense and defense besides the quarterback. Washington is not. If someone gets hurt or gets tired, that's where the problem is.
Call from
JD.
JD, Mr. Seminole, the floor is yours. What do you got to say, good sir?
You are correct, and I was incorrect.
I was correct. Holy
you were
smokes.
Correct, I was incorrect. Things aren't settled, and there was a little tip-off that Sankey was going to get a little more involved.
Yeah.
And we always kind of knew it would happen, but there were things to lead me to believe that some of the decisions had already been made. And, I was incorrect. And that was just my own assumptions because of things that I have heard. So, but yes, that's by you introducing Sankey into the conversation, it's just further evidence that things are moving much faster, at a much faster pace, like you alluded to.
Yeah.
And it's
Yes, sir.
time. It's time. They're about to start divvying up the last remaining brands that either of the two would want, Big Ten or SEC, or they're going to at least start opening the opportunities. You know, the SEC has been standing firm. We're going to stay at 16. We're going to stay at 16. But when it became real that the ACC teams were going to leave, which nobody seems to doubt that they aren't, the ones in question, the major ones, that's, being Captain Obvious here. Sankey doesn't want to lose major brands and allow the Big Ten to get a foothold in his backyard. I mean, who would?
Yeah.
Unless there's something to offer in the negotiating process. Maybe he wants North Carolina really bad, and he's willing to give up FSU and or Clemson or whatever. All of this is speculation. We know that the targets are, the primary targets, FSU, Clemson. I think primarily, of course Notre Dame. Everybody's know, but that's just a given.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the two major ones I think are FSU and then North Carolina, and then right behind that, very closely behind that, is Clemson. And then the other ones, it's just your guess. The other ones are just strategic moves. Maybe NC State. You'd say Virginia just because of geographically, but again, we don't know. We don't know. I still contend that Georgia Tech is a lot better potential addition than what a lot of people might consider, just for geography and real estate. I've probably said this 4 or 5 times online. They hold the best, most valuable real estate in all of college football, downtown Atlanta.
Yeah.
And that's because Atlanta is the capital of college football. College football media is centered around Atlanta and centered around the South. I used to live in Atlanta. It's a college football team. College Football Hall of Fame is there. And to throw a Big Ten team right downtown in the same place where they hold their conference championship games and everything else, that is a huge, huge invasion into enemy territory per se. And some people might not agree. Some people will say, Georgia Tech. It's not about Georgia Tech. It's about expanding your footprint into your opponent's territory, And that's why I consider Georgia Tech a possibly a good addition for the Big Ten. And there's a lot of Big Ten transplants in Atlanta area anyway, just like in Florida. But anyway, but I was calling to take the L. That's all. You were correct. You were good to call me out.
No, I wasn't calling. I called you a legendary caller.
Sir?
Huh? I called you a legend while I was calling you out. So that's pretty good.
No, I'm not a legend. I'm just somebody that keeps my ear to the ground, and I try to pay attention to what's going on. And like I said, I have kind of a soft spot for the Big Ten now. I kind of lean more towards I'd like FSU to go there. I'll be happy in the SEC too.
Yeah.
I mean, because some of those interconference games and so on would be fantastic. But it's just, I don't know, the fascination of being a national brand.
Yeah.
Well, we are a national brand, but going and playing
in a national conference.
Going and playing in Washington. You're playing throughout the country, and there's
we have a long ways to go, my friend. Long ways to go.
We do, and then something that was being alluded to in the I think it was David Hood yesterday. Is that what it was on Tigers Net? Talking about the and there were other people. I think Immaculate had talked about it online. Some other people that that according to his sources, Clemson sources and some North Carolina sources, that they're waiting for the new additions to be ratified to the conference because some of the lawyers think it gives the three schools better legal standing in challenging the grant of rights because they added these additional schools against their wishes. I don't know. There's some people on the FSU side that just people commenting, not like official. That doesn't matter. I don't know, but you're correct. There's a few things they're waiting on just to let kind of play out, like you said before, the Notre Dame thing, and then a few other things that they're going to try to shake out, and then if they don't, then they'll just challenge it if they have to in court. But some of the things that Jim Williams was talking about yesterday in his sources, the ACC is introducing the idea now, if his sources are accurate, that they're willing to negotiate. And now it's not that they're not willing to negotiate, it's what time period are they willing to negotiate? Yeah. Are they going to try to force the rest of the schools to stay for at least another 5 or 6 years? Or are they willing to let them go in 2 to 3? And I think that's where the next layer goes, or that's where the next battlefield or negotiating stance is.
Well, he's right.
Well, if you want to be out in the next 2 to 3, you're going to have to pay a premium, and that's where they're going to go. So I think like you and others have said, now we're just in the negotiating process now. Now that's what we're down.
You're going to have to pay a premium, and you got to start no later than the first quarter of 2024. So. Yep.
But anyway.
All righty, man. Appreciate it.
Can hold you up any longer.
Great call, Mr. Seminole. Please call again, sir. Loving it. Thanks, man.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, things aren't settled, but things are taking shape. People are trying to shape the battlefields in their direction either way. And Sankey, as JD accurately described, now he's getting involved. And that's why he's entering the Holy Smokes Theater for the very first time. When we talk about the Holy Smokes Theater, we're having fun with it. I know it seems I get trashed all the time, all over the place on message boards, which is fine, about my Holy Smokes Theater. They don't trash the accuracy. They trash how I do it. look, I'm trying to do it in a way that I can give you information, hopefully in an entertaining manner. We do not say things just out of thin air. We do not. Look, if you go back in the last couple months of our show, people kept saying, "Where's Greg Sankey? Where's Greg Sankey?" And I said, there's no reason for him to be in the room. Now he's in the theater. Now he definitely is in the theater.
Call from
Moen.
Moen, holy smokes. Mr. Buckeye is in the house. What's going on? The floor is yours, sir. What do you got to say?
I have to say that the time is now, Greg. The Big Ten has to make the investment in its future. They need to enact what I call the Sherman's March plan.
Woo!
They need to take Florida State, Georgia Tech, Clemson, and North Carolina in one fell swoop.
Wait, let me write this down here. Florida State, Georgia Tech, North Carolina, and who?
Clemson.
Clemson. Got it. Okay, go ahead. Tell me what you're thinking. Tell me what you're feeling.
I think they get their buyout number from the ACC, and the Big Ten should pony up half of it.
Holy
Give
smokes.
it to them in forgivable loans. No different than they did with Maryland. 0% loans that you forgive most of.
Wow. Well, repeat what you just said there at the end.
I said that you give them 0% loans just like you did Maryland.
Yeah.
And Maryland was getting out of the ACC.
Yes.
And then you just forgive them later on.
Yeah. Well, first of all, what is, now, of course, we don't know what that number is. That's going to take for these schools to lead the ACC. I believe, and this is just me speculating. This is not, no one's telling me this. It's going to be probably around, this is me speculating, Moen, okay? So I could be so far off, it'd make your head spin off your neck. Could be like 60% of the exit fee, 60% of whatever is remaining of the grant of rights of each year. I don't know what that number would be then. 60% of the exit fee. What is 60% of 120? 70 something? I have no idea. Whatever that number is. Let's say it's
roughly 72, but
whatever that number is. Plus 60% of 30 million, 12, whatever. I think it could be around $300 million a school.
fair enough.
250 to 300 million. Probably
That's
no
what I
more
think
than that.
too. Yeah.
So you're thinking the Big Ten comes in and gives, let's say, 150 to each of those four schools to help them get out. So it'd be 150 million for each of those schools. We're just throwing numbers here. We're not.
Right. We're just throwing numbers out there to give them 50%.
Yeah. Interesting. Now, I don't believe in the
Okay,
Georgia Tech thing, but previous caller, JD, made some good points. You have made great points in the past about Georgia Tech. Interesting. Now, did you catch my monologue about Sankey coming into the room, into the theater?
Yes, I heard a little bit about something like that yesterday afternoon. So that jives with what I heard as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. You got to strike while the iron's hot, Greg.
Okay. Wow.
Right now, the Big Ten needs to make that commitment. We got to invest in our future, just like we did with the Big Ten Network.
Wow.
If we're going to be a national conference, we got to get into the South, and we got to get the biggest brands out of there that are available to us.
Wow.
Right now, the biggest brands are Clemson, Florida State, and North Carolina. Georgia Tech gives us the Atlanta media market. Huge footprint of Big Ten alumni live in the greater Atlanta area as well. Fast-growing metropolitan area. Big demographic shifts in terms of wealth down there. You've seen that politically with it flipping to a purple state from a deep red state. So, I mean, definitely I think you get into Georgia through Georgia Tech. That gets you into 22 slots. And then I think you wait for teams number 23 and 24. You finally, a few years from now, you get Notre Dame on board, and you give that last slot to Texas A&M.
Wow. Holy smokes. Moen Vision's coming
away
in.
From the SEC.
Huh?
you wrangle Texas A&M away from the SEC.
Yeah, I don't think.
Next media deal.
Wow. Now you're leaving out Miami or Florida, huh? For the Big Ten.
If you've got Florida State, you do not need Miami.
Well, if you've got Clemson and Florida State, you do not need Georgia Tech.
You do need Georgia Tech for the Atlanta TV market.
But
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
There's overlap.
Yeah.
But those schools are not within state. They do not get local carriage fees.
Okay. All right. Beautiful.
So I know you disagree with me and you think Miami's a better pick than Georgia Tech, but I'm telling you, if you've got Florida State, you don't need Miami.
Yeah.
Miami can stay in the ACC with that Ivy League that Notre Dame's putting together.
Now, let me ask you about two football games this week. I haven't gotten your takes on it. Washington and Oregon and Notre Dame and USC, both about 2.5 point spread games. Who do you think takes those games?
I like Oregon to beat Washington.
Woo!
I think Oregon's got a better defense, especially in the secondary. So I think Michael Penix might have some issues there. And I like USC to beat Notre Dame.
USC beat Notre Dame. Yeah.
Yeah, I know USC's got a paper-thin defense, but
yeah,
I don't know. Notre Dame, I don't know. They don't. I think that end of the game touchdown that Ohio State scored on them might have broke them.
Yeah, and I don't think Notre Dame's offense is going to be able to take advantage of that USC's paper-thin defense enough to where they can win the game. I've got USC as well, but I got Washington. So
yeah, it's
big games.
It's 6 on one hand, half a dozen on the other, Greg. I mean, they could go either way. I like USC against Notre Dame. My picks have been atrocious this season. I said it on Nate's show. I've taken over the role of the cooler.
Yeah.
That's my karma for calling you the cooler for the last year. Now I'm the cooler.
I'm 20-24. The PATC community's 18-26. So we're struggling over here, I tell you that.
I think I'm 16-24, Greg. So you're still doing better than I am.
Yeah,
still doing a whole lot better.
It's a tough business, I tell you. It's tough.
It is.
Yeah.
But that's my plan. That's what I think would be the Big Ten's best move. Make it a national brand now. Don't wait. Strike while the iron's hot.
Wow. Mowing Vision coming in strong once again. Legendary PATC caller. Thank you, sir. Wow. Holy smokes. Skull Ducky's giving Moen some kudos for taking the Ducks. Wow. Jared Jones, I think you absolutely take Florida State and Miami to secure the majority of Florida. So Jared Jones, Mr. Buckeye, might be disagreeing with Moen just a touch. Buckeye versus Buckeye. But I understand the Georgia Tech's, I understand all that. What I and Moen and everybody has heard me say it over and over again, if I'm predicting what's going to happen, first of all, we've got no smoke at Georgia Tech here at PATC, but Georgia Tech being such a secondary brand in the massive, in the important Georgia market, doesn't fit with what Big Ten tries to do. They don't go for the secondary brand in a market. They never have. I mean, they do if they've got the top brand in the market. So, like, in Michigan State, decades after the Michigan became a Big Ten, I just don't. So that's why. But Florida State, North Carolina, Clemson, we shall see. Again, peek around the corners, update in the Holy Smokes Theater. Greg Sankey has entered into the theater. Now he's become proactive. Monovision heard something yesterday that Sankey is now in the theater. We've got Sankey up in the VIP box, in his own box, but the box is next to Peter Collins, the Florida State Board of Trustees, What does that mean? If it means anything at all, we're going to be digging into it later in the latest show in the coming days and the coming weeks. In fact, it'd probably be tomorrow. I think we might be able to push the envelope tomorrow. Things are happening. Things are happening. If you read between the lines, things are happening. If you read about the situation in the Holy Smokes Theater, we can tell you things are happening. But we have a long ways to go. Long ways to go. And there's going to be changes. There's going to be curves. There's going to be swerves in the storyline. So stick with us here at Peek Around the Corner. We're going to be shutting it down for this live show. We've been on for 2 hours. We thank you so much for joining us here at PATC Live Show, Holy Smokes Theater, lunchtime. I appreciate it. Appreciate the donations. Your donations help us keep the lights on so we can keep doing this day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out. If you're new to the show, if you like the show, please subscribe to the channel. Smash the like button on your way out because it helps us so much with the algorithms at YouTube. It helps our show get distributed to more people if you smash that like button. And then share this video with your family and friends. Word of mouth is our best marketing at Peek Around the Corner. Go to our merchandise store, get the Holy Smokes, get the Cloak and Dagger mug, the trucker hats, and everything else that's at the merchandise store. And stay with us here because tomorrow's show, I believe, as we sit here right now, I believe tomorrow's show, we're going to be able to get a little bit more in depth on why the Holy Smokes Theater is set up the way it is here in Act 3. So until next time, from all of us at College Football's Peek Around the Corner, to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.